President Bola Tinubu has arrived in New Delhi, India to attend the G20 Leaders Summit at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Nigeria is considering applying to become a member of the G20 bloc of major economies after concluding consultations on the risks and benefits. Tinubu will attend the G20 summit to try to promote foreign investment in Nigeria and mobilize global capital to develop infrastructure. Tinubu's administration wants to encourage investments rather than rely on borrowing to create jobs as it tries to revive an economy struggling with record debt, a weak currency, double-digit inflation, and skeletal power supplies. Right, we have economist and financial expert Kalu joining us on Newsnight tonight. Thank you so much. So good to see you. Well, President Tinubu is traveling he's already in India with 38 businessmen and leaders in the financial and economic world. What are your expectations? What kind of messaging do you think President Tinubu should be making in India to attract foreign direct investment?
I think he started off, thanks for inviting me. He started off well by attending with a large delegation. That shows his intent to talk business to the largest economies in the world. India, US is going to be there, the Euro nations are going to be there. So Tinubu has got to sell the macroeconomic reforms that he has already started in Nigeria. He's going to sell it strongly and then request for investments to continue those reforms across the board. Right now, he has a huge debt overhang, which he can't borrow again. So he needs FDI, that's foreign direct investments, and of course, foreign partner investments to come in now, not next year, literally now. So we can, balance our advance of payments issue that we have right now. So he needs to sell like a salesman very forcefully. So the international community of Nigeria is open for business. There's a new guy in town, and this new guy is ready to talk business with the world.
Well, I mean, we must state that President Tinubu is yet to arrive New Delhi, India for the G20 summit. What are your expectations really on this trip? What are you looking forward to?
Well, let's look at what India has done well. India has gone from about 4 billion foreign direct investment in 2000, right, to about 85 billion this year. 85 billion compared to 4 billion. What did they do right? They focused on their key components, human capital, very smart folks out of universities, IT, and they attracted Google, Facebook, the Saudi Arabia PIF. So they used foreign direct investments to assuage their foreign capital needs. So they didn't really go borrowing like Nigeria has done, and they focused on their key inputs, their educated workforce, English speaking, and attracted the foreign direct investments into India. They're not perfect, but they've done those things well. Same way with their petrochemicals. India does not have oil to export, but their refineries work. So one of the key exports from India to Nigeria is refined petroleum. So they get the crude oil from Nigeria and they sell PMS back to Nigeria. So the little things that they've done well, Nigeria could copy from them. We also have a huge population of young English-speaking educated Nigerians that we can also, with the time difference advantage, sell call centers, sell IT, sell fintech, and attract the FDIs back into Nigeria. This FDI flow is different from crude oil. It helps with our balance of payments. It helps with the Naira. It helps to create jobs. So let's learn from what India has done with the services part of their economy. That's what I would like them to do. Take those guys there. Let's look at agriculture. India is 1 billion people, but they can feed themselves. Yeah, can we feed ourselves? How have they done it? IT, can we create jobs as well? What India has done, get those learnings in and implement it. I think it's easier for us to copy India than say the US. So that's what I expect from them.
Amazing. But then let's look at our business climate in Nigeria. It's a good thing that the president is seeking to woo investors from India or from the G20 summit. Assuming he's lucky, if he's lucky to get a number of them to come to Nigeria to invest, that's a good thing. But then how accommodating is our business climate?
Well, that's now what we have to do internally. we've got to fix our ease of doing business. And it's a very, very simple thing we have to fix: power. You can't have investors coming to Nigeria when there's no power supply. You know, apart from insecurity, just power supply. If we can fix power, and then we can talk about inflation, so business can plan, they want the right way. But you can't do anything if we use generators 24/7. So I would say internally, we have a lot to do. India is spending 122 billion this year on infrastructure alone, just infrastructure. India is Nigeria's largest trade partner, right? So we've got to do things that can connect both parties, like a swap deal with Naira and Rupee. So we reduce the amount of, say, dollars that we need to spend between both parties. And then use that dollar savings to then use to do other trade or to invest in infrastructure. So we have lots of work to do in Nigeria. We have to get our economy competitive. We've got to get consumer spending up. And that's on the government. You can't tax, you can't increase your way to prosperity. We've got to allow the middle class to spend, i.e. to create wealth. And you can only do that when the economy is set right. There are all this fees, taxes go out of the way, and it's replaced by the government looking at the economy as an enabler for wealth creation for the very, very poor in Nigeria.
All right, let's talk about the chances of Nigeria, joining the G20. In the event that Nigeria succeeds in joining, first off, what are Nigeria's chances really? And what would be the benefits and the downside of Nigeria's membership of the G20?
Well, I think we're invited now as an observer. We had Vision 2020. I don't think we have a chance to join the G20 now. And even if we join, G20 is literally a Western body. It's like the G7. It's still the World Bank, IMF angle, right? There's nothing you're going to get there as an observer. Nigeria might be better placed to look eastwards, i.e. looking at the BRICS setup, where we can then get the swap deals from China and from India. Remember, the largest trade partners are India and China. So anything that we're doing with those two countries has a larger impact than what we're doing in the West. G20 is more like G7 plus the other big boys that are too big to be left out of the party, but are too small to be in G7. I'm not sure Nigeria being an observer is really going to get much traction. South Africa, Egypt are there already. They're going to crowd us out. So we need to go create our own place where we can essentially sell those attributes that make Nigeria big. So I would say just go there on a bilateral level and strike those deals with individual nations. I'm not sure joining G20 is going to bring anything significant that is different from what the World Bank, IMF, and the other parties already give Nigeria.
Amazing. Yet another thing we need to consider is how India has grown to what it is today by importing technology, buying technology. Where are we in this regard?
We're actually doing very, very well. If you look at one of the bright spots in Nigeria is fintech and IT. India has about 107 unicorns. That means IT firms valued about $1 billion. We have about 3 or 4. And in Africa, Nigeria is the number 1 if you take away South Africa. And most of our IT guys are self-trained. And we speak English. We're in a good time zone. So this matters a lot because what India started off with was call centers, where in the US, you call a number, it takes you to India, and those guys then basically sort out your problem. From there, they went into services. So we'll not just take your voice call, we can fix your computer, and we can do value-added services. This is a pathway for Nigeria. It's set up for Nigeria perfectly. You have young folks in Nigeria that can speak English. They can start off by doing call centers. India has 3 million employed in call centers. India, Philippines, that's the big generator of employment. So you take the kids off the street, you give them a phone, you train them on IT. When you have that base, that's when Google can then come in. That's when Facebook can then come in to invest. Remember what I said at the top? Google, 10 billion in India. Facebook, 7 billion in India. Direct foreign investments in their economy because they created a base of IT services that has grown even larger than agriculture. So that's our own target. Focus on the IT. We have young, smart folks here and grow that sector even larger than what we have in agriculture. Grow it, create jobs, and attract foreign direct investment into Nigeria. That will help the Naira.
Very quickly before we wrap, in the immediate to long term, what does Nigeria need to put in place to ensure that this FDI is really, I mean, that it really does happen that these people that Nigeria is selling herself to actually buy in. What do we need to do immediately?
Well, I think number one is what we've done now with the devaluation. Because if folks want to invest money, they need to know how much they're buying Naira, right? And also how much they can take Naira out of the economy. In the past, we had this CBN rate that didn't allow you to export your earnings. Right now, we've liberalized the foreign exchange market. So it makes it easier now for investors to come in. Then fix the internals, the power, the insecurity, the infrastructure. But the macro, i.e. inflation, also worry about that. If you bring in $1 today, can you take $1 out in 10 years if Naira has gone down by, say, 100%? No. So the macro stability is what is important. India is not that better than Nigeria, but they've done the thing that they have to do very, very well. They've used FDI to reduce borrowings. They've reduced their inflation. They've allowed their currency to be very, very stable, right? So the stability and the thing they've done well, they've done it pretty well. They've got a very, very good school that produces very, very good graduates that go abroad, work abroad, and bring back technology back to India. So copy them, see what they've done well, get it right. Medical tourism, do one, do it well. We don't have to fix all of Nigeria, but do one, do it well, attract investments in. That's what they've done. We can also copy that.
A big thank you to Kalu, economist, financial expert, for coming to Newsline.